The station hung in the void like a steel flower, its petals spreading outward into the darkness. Crosspoint 9 had been built for one purpose: peace. For 900 years, it had served as the meeting ground between humanity and the Galactic Empire. Today, it would see that peace die. General Han Mireille stood before the massive window, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. She was 52 years old, and her uniform carried more medals than most soldiers would see in 3 lifetimes. Her black hair was tied back severely, showing the sharp lines of her face. She did not smile often. She did not smile now. "You look worried," said a voice behind her. Mireille turned to see Ambassador Park Ji-hoon walking toward her. He was 10 years older than she was, with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen too many negotiations. He carried a diplomatic case that probably held the speech he would give today. "I am always worried when there are this many Imperial ships in one place," Mireille said. Park looked out the window. Indeed, the Empire had brought an entire fleet to the ceremony. Massive warships that looked like they were built to crush planets. There were at least 50 of them, maybe more. For a peace celebration, it seemed excessive. "They are just showing off," Park said. "The Empire likes to remind everyone who has the biggest guns." "That is what worries me," Mireille replied. The ceremony was set to begin in 2 hours. It would mark 900 years since the Treaty of Broken Swords had ended the First Human Galactic War. That war had been brutal and short. Humanity had been new to space, eager and aggressive. They had fought against the Empire with everything they had, and they had lost. The treaty that followed had been harsh but fair. Humanity would limit its military expansion. They would keep only defensive fleets. They would become part of the galactic community, not as conquerors, but as members. In exchange, they would have peace and the right to trade with other species. For 9 centuries, humanity had kept that promise. They had built stations and colonies, but always within their agreed boundaries. They had created trade networks that made Earth wealthy. They had sent diplomats instead of soldiers. They had become trusted partners in galactic affairs. But Mireille had been a soldier for 30 years. And she knew something that the diplomats often forgot. The Empire did not trust humans. They feared them. And fear had a way of turning into hatred. "General," a young officer approached and saluted. It was Captain Lee Do-yoon, her second in command. He was 35, sharp-minded, and the best tactical officer she had ever trained. "The security sweep is complete. The station is clear." "Good," Mireille said. "Stay alert. I want eyes on every Imperial soldier here." "You really think something will happen?" Do-yoon asked quietly. Mireille looked at him. "I think the Empire has been moving ships into forward positions for 6 months. I think they are preparing for something, and I do not trust ceremonies that require this much firepower." Do-yoon nodded. He trusted her instincts. They all did. The ceremonial hall was enormous, big enough to hold representatives from all 47 member species of the Galactic Council. Humans were just one species among many, though they were among the most successful. In 900 years, they had gone from defeated newcomers to essential trading partners. The hall was decorated with banners from every species. At the center was the Treaty Stone, a massive piece of granite from Earth that had been carved with the words of the original treaty in 12 languages. It was meant to be a symbol of unity. Mireille took her position near the stage. Ambassador Park would speak first, then the Imperial High Commander. There would be speeches about peace and cooperation and the bright future ahead. There would be celebration and food and diplomatic small talk. Mireille hated ceremonies. The hall filled slowly. She watched each delegate enter, noting their positions and their guards. The Korthan delegation arrived with an honor guard of 20 soldiers. The Korthans were the dominant species in the Empire, tall and reptilian, with scales that shimmered under the lights. Their high commander, Vex Thar, was an old soldier who had fought in the border skirmishes 20 years ago. He had lost ships to human tactics then. Mireille remembered. General Han. Vexthar approached her, his voice like gravel. I am told you remain cautious even at celebrations. I am told you brought 50 warships to a peace ceremony. Mireille replied evenly. Vexthar's mouthparts curved in what might have been a smile. Protection. These are dangerous times. For whom? Mireille asked. The High Commander did not answer. He simply nodded and moved on to greet other delegates. Captain Doyun appeared at Mireille's side. I do not like him. Neither do I, Mireille said. But we smile and shake hands. Because that is what peace requires. The ceremony began. Ambassador Park spoke beautifully about cooperation and shared futures. He talked about how humanity had learned from its mistakes and had become better because of it. He talked about respect and understanding. Mireille only half listened. She was watching the crowd. She noticed that the Corthan guards had positioned themselves at all the major exits. She noticed that more Imperial ships were arriving even now, visible through the windows. She noticed that Vexthar kept looking at his communication device. Something was wrong. Then it was her turn to speak. Mireille walked to the podium, aware of every eye on her. She was the symbol of human military power, standing here in the heart of a peace ceremony. Some species saw her as a reminder of human strength. Others saw her as proof that humans could be trusted with power. She began her speech. It was simple and direct. Like she was, peace is not the absence of strength, she said. Peace is the choice to use strength wisely. For 900 years, humanity has made that choice every day. We have honored this treaty, not because we are weak, but because we value what it has built. We stand here today as equals, as partners, as friends. She saw Ambassador Park nodding approvingly. She saw Captain Doyun watching the crowd, always alert. She saw the delegates listening, some with respect, some with boredom, some with something that looked like contempt. And she saw the Corthan soldier raise his weapon. It happened fast. Too fast for anyone to stop. The plasma bolt crossed the hall in a flash of blue light. Mireille saw it coming and knew she had no time to move. The bolt hit her square in the chest, burning through her uniform and into her heart. She fell. The last thing she heard before the darkness took her was screaming. The last thing she saw was Captain Doyun running toward her. The last thing she thought was that she had been right to worry. The peace that had lasted 900 years died with her on the floor of that ceremonial hall, her blood spreading across the polished stone like a red tide. Captain Lee Doyun reached General Han Mireille 3 seconds after she fell. Those 3 seconds felt like years. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands moving to the wound, even though he already knew it was too late. The plasma bolt had burned straight through her heart. Nothing could survive that. Her eyes were still open. She was trying to speak. Doyun leaned close to hear her final words. Don't let them bury what we are, she whispered. Then, the light left her eyes. The ceremonial hall had erupted into chaos. Delegates were screaming and running for the exits. The Corthan guards had tackled the shooter, a young soldier named Dreth, who was now face down on the floor. Ambassador Park was shouting for medical help even though everyone could see it was pointless. Security alarms were blaring throughout the station. Doyun stood slowly. He looked down at his hands. They were covered in Mireille's blood. He looked at the Corthan soldier who had killed her. Dreth was not resisting. He was just lying there, calm and quiet, like someone who had completed his mission. Imperial High Commander Vexthar was already speaking into communicators, his voice sharp and commanding. Within minutes, he had called a press conference. Within an hour, the Empire's official statement was broadcast across the galaxy. A tragic accident, Vexthar announced to the cameras. A disturbed soldier acting alone. The Empire extends its deepest apologies to humanity and to the family of General Han Mireille. The shooter will face full justice under Imperial law. Doyun watched the broadcast from the station's command center. He wanted to put his fist through the screen. Beside him, other human officers were barely containing their rage. They are lying, said Commander Yoon Seojin, who commanded one of Earth's defensive fleets. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and a reputation for never backing down. This was planned. Genter. Of course it was planned, Doyoon said quietly. The question is, what we do about it. Ambassador Park arrived at the command center looking 20 years older than he had that morning. His diplomatic case was gone. His careful composure was cracking. Earth Command wants us to return home immediately. They are convening the Security Council. Ismend, Ondermend, with careful composure. Ondermend, Ismend, Ondermend. What about Dreth? Doyoon asked. What about a real investigation? Temder, 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 Temder. The Empire says they will handle it internally, Park said. He looked sick saying the words. They claim jurisdiction, since it happened on an Imperial registered station. Crosspoint 9 is neutral territory, Commander Yoon said. They have no jurisdiction here. They do now, Park replied. They moved 6 battle fleets into position around the station. They are making it very clear that they will not hand over the shooter or anyone else. Doyoon felt something cold settle into his chest. This was not an accident. This was a test. The Empire had murdered a human general during a peace ceremony, and now they were waiting to see what humanity would do about it. The flight back to Earth took 4 days. During that time, every news channel in human space showed nothing but Mireille's assassination. They showed it from every angle. They showed her speaking about peace. They showed the plasma bolt hitting her. They showed her falling. Over and over again. Public opinion went from shock to grief to rage with stunning speed. Protests erupted in every major city on Earth. People who had never cared about military policy were suddenly demanding justice. Veterans who had served under Mireille were calling for war. Politicians who had built their careers on maintaining the treaty were now being shouted down in the streets. When Doyoon's ship landed, he went straight to Earth Defense Command. The building was surrounded by crowds. Some were holding signs with Mireille's picture. Some were chanting for vengeance. Some were simply standing in silence, bearing witness. Inside, the Security Council was already in session. Admiral Kim Woo-jin, the commander of Earth's home fleet, was in the middle of a heated argument with the civilian leadership. Woo-jin was 60 years old, a veteran of the border wars, and one of the few officers who had openly opposed the treaty from the beginning. They murdered her, Woo-jin was saying. They murdered a general during a peace ceremony, and now they are laughing at us. If we do not respond, we are telling every species in the galaxy that human blood is cheap. If we respond with force, we start a war we might not win, countered Defense Minister Han Ji-woo. She was no relation to Mireille, but the shared surname made the situation even more tense. The Empire has 1,000 times our military capacity. We would be destroyed. Thank you for watching. Would we? Woo-jin asked quietly. The room went silent. Doyoon, standing at the back, felt his heart start to race. He knew what Woo-jin was about to say. They all knew. It was the secret that had been kept for 900 years. Permission to speak, Admiral, Doyoon said. Woo-jin nodded. Captain Doyoon was General Han's second in command. He was there when she died. Speak, Captain. Doyoon walked to the center of the room. He was still wearing his uniform from the ceremony. It still had Mireille's blood on it. He had not changed because he wanted them to see it. He wanted them to remember. General Han knew something was coming, Doyoon said. She had been investigating Imperial military movements for 3 years. She found evidence of massive fleet buildups in 6 sectors. She found evidence of weapons development programs that violated the treaty. She documented everything. He pulled a data chip from his pocket and placed it on the table. This is her final report. She finished it 2 days before she was killed. She was planning to present it to this council. She wanna understand. I think the Empire found out. I think they killed her to keep her quiet. Minister Han reached for the chip with shaking hands. What does it say? It says they are preparing to attack us, Do-yun replied. She believed they were planning to strike within 5 years. She believed they would use a minor incident to justify it, something they could blame on human aggression. Instead, they used her murder. Then we are out of time, Woo-jin said. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the crowds below. We have a choice to make. We can accept the Empire's apology and hope they do not attack. Or we can show them what happens when you kill one of ours. You are talking about war, Minister Han said. I am talking about survival, Woo-jin replied. He turned to face the council. For 900 years, we have lived within the limits of that treaty. We agreed to restrict our military. We agreed to defensive fleets only. We agreed to make ourselves smaller so they could feel safer. He paused. But we never agreed to be weak. 774. /degref time. We agreed to be weak. The Prime Minister, an old man named Kang Suho, who had led Earth for 15 years, spoke for the first time. What are you saying, Admiral? I am saying that we kept the treaty, Woo-jin said. Every word of it. But the treaty said nothing about research. It said nothing about preparation. It said nothing about building the capacity to defend ourselves if the peace ever failed. He smiled. And it was not a kind smile. We have been preparing for this day since the day we signed that treaty. We just hoped it would never come. Minister Han looked at the data chip, then at the Admiral, then at the crowds outside. How many people know about this? Everyone who needs to, Woo-jin said. And after tonight, everyone will. That evening, Prime Minister Kang addressed the entire human population. Every screen, every broadcast, every feed carried his message. He spoke for 30 minutes. He talked about General Han Mirei and what she had stood for. He talked about the treaty and how humanity had honored it even when it was difficult. He talked about peace and the price they had paid for it. Then he said the words that changed everything. For 900 years, we bent the knee. We made ourselves smaller. We limited our strength so others could feel safe. General Han Mirei believed in that peace. She died for it. They murdered her because even our restraint made them afraid. He paused, and his next words were quiet but clear. No more. As of this moment, Earth withdraws from the Treaty of Broken Swords. We will have justice for General Han. And if the Empire wants war, they will learn what we really are. The cheering from the crowds outside could be heard even through the walls of the command center. Do-yun stood at attention, his hand over his heart, feeling the weight of what was coming. Mirei had believed in peace. She had died believing in it. Now they would show the galaxy why she had been right to make them afraid. The shipyards appeared on every sensor screen in Imperial space at exactly the same moment. 1 minute. The void was empty. The next, massive structures flickered into existence, dropped from stealth fields that had hidden them for centuries. There were 42 shipyards. Each one was the size of a small moon. Each one was full of warships. In the Imperial capital, alarms were screaming. High Commander Vexi Thar stood in the command center, staring at the displays with something close to disbelief. How many ships? He demanded. Initial count shows 4,000, his tactical officer reported. Her voice was shaking. And they are still uncloaking more. 5,000 now. 6,000. That is impossible, Vexthar said. The treaty limited them to 500 defensive vessels. We have been monitoring them for 900 years. The treaty limited their active fleet, another officer said quietly. It said nothing about mothballed ships, nothing about reserves, nothing about vessels kept in storage. Vexthar felt ice in his veins. They have been building for 900 years. No. Commander, the officer replied. They have been preparing. On Earth, Admiral Kim Woo-jin stood in the same command center where the treaty had been signed 9 centuries ago. Around him, Displays showed the Imperial fleets scrambling to respond to the sudden appearance of human military might. He allowed himself a small smile. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Captain Lee Do-yun, now promoted to general after Mirai's death, walked through the main shipyard designated as Forge 7. The scale was overwhelming. Ships hung in neat rows, extending as far as he could see. These were not the defensive frigates and patrol craft that the Empire was used to seeing. These were warships. Real warships. The Reaper-class dreadnought, Dr. Choi Hee-jin said, walking beside him. She was the chief scientist of Earth's Weapons Development Division. A small woman with gray hair, and the kind of mind that could calculate orbital mechanics while eating breakfast. "We designed them 200 years ago, but kept improving them. They are faster than anything the Empire has. Tougher. Better armed." "My Lavin," Do-yun looked up at the nearest ship. It was black as space itself, covered in angular armor that seemed to drink in light. "How many?" 800 Reapers, Doctor," Choi said. "Plus 3,000 cruisers, 1,200 carriers, and too many support ships to count quickly. We also have the Ghost Fleet. But Commander Yoon will tell you about that herself." Commander Yoon Sojin appeared as if summoned. She was wearing a different uniform now. All black, with no rank insignia. Her eyes had dark circles under them, like she had not slept in days. Knowing her, Do-yun thought, she probably had not. "General," Yoon said. "Welcome to the real military." "The Ghost Fleet?" Do-yun asked. Yoon smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Come with me." They took a shuttle to a region of space that all the charts said was empty. But as they approached, Yoon entered a code into the navigation system. Suddenly, space itself seemed to tear open. A massive gate appeared, thrumming with energy. "We built this gate 70 years ago," Yoon explained. "It connects to dark space, a pocket dimension we discovered during the early treaty years. The Empire does not know it exists. Inside are 500 dreadnoughts that make the Reapers look gentle. We call them ghosts because they can appear anywhere, anytime, and the Empire will never see them coming." The shuttle passed through the gate. On the other side was a fleet that took Do-yun's breath away. The ghost ships were larger than any human vessel he had ever seen, even larger than Imperial battle wagons. They were angular and sharp, covered in weapons that looked like they could crack planets. "Why build these?" Do-yun asked. "If we wanted peace, why prepare for war like this?" Yoon looked at him with tired eyes. "Because General Han asked us to. 30 years ago, when she first took command, she came to us with a question. She asked, 'If the peace fails, can we survive?' We told her no. The Empire would crush us. So she said, 'Then make it so we can.'" Do-yun felt a lump in his throat. Mirai had spent 3 decades preparing for the war she hoped would never come. She had believed in peace, but had planned for its failure. And they had killed her for it. "She knew," Do-yun said quietly. "She knew they would eventually try something. She knew that peace only lasts when both sides respect it," Yoon replied. "The moment they stopped respecting us, the moment they thought we were weak, the peace was already dead. She just wanted us to survive what came after." The Imperial response came within a week. Vex Thar assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. 2,000 warships from 12 species, all united under the Imperial banner. It was a force meant to crush humanity so completely that no one would ever question Imperial authority again. They met the human fleet at Arcturus, a system on the border between human and Imperial space. The Empire had chosen the location because it was far from civilian populations and would make a good example. They expected a battle. They expected to win. They got a massacre. Admiral Woojin commanded from the carrier Righteous Fury. He watched the Imperial fleet approach in their traditional formation. Massive and slow and confident. They had a numbers advantage of 10-1. In any previous war, that would have been enough. All ships, Wujin said calmly. Execute pattern Murray. The human fleet split into 3 groups and accelerated to speeds the Empire did not think were possible. The Reaper-class dreadnoughts opened fire with weapons that burned through Imperial shields like paper. The carriers launched fighter wings that moved with precision the Empire had never seen. The Ghost Fleet, hidden until that moment, appeared in the middle of the Imperial formation and opened fire at point-blank range. The battle lasted 14 minutes. When it was over, 200 Imperial ships were debris. The human fleet had lost 6 vessels. Across the Empire, species that had been loyal for centuries suddenly became very quiet. If humans could do that to the Imperial fleet, what else could they do? Vex Thar watched the battle reports with growing horror. His tactical officers were speaking, but he could barely hear them. The humans had not just won. They had not even been challenged. It was like watching adults fight children. How did we not know? He asked. How did we not see this? One of his advisors, an old Korthan named Rax, spoke quietly. We thought limiting their fleet meant limiting their strength. We forgot what they were before the treaty. We forgot that they fought us to a standstill when they had barely left their planet. We forgot what it means to be human. What does it mean? Vex Thar demanded. It means they are the species that survived on a death world, Rax said. It means they crawled out of gravity that should have killed them. In a solar system that tried to destroy them at every turn. It means they fought their way to space through war and disaster and extinction events. And we thought 900 years of peace had made them soft. He laughed bitterly. We were fools. Admiral Wujin broadcast a message to the entire galaxy that night. It was simple and direct, just like Mireille would have wanted. For 900 years, we kept the peace. We limited ourselves. We became partners in the galactic community. We did this because General Han Mireille convinced us to. She believed that strength was best used in building, not destroying. You killed her for that belief. You murdered the woman who kept us leashed. He paused. We could have conquered this galaxy 700 years ago. We chose not to. We chose to build alongside you instead. But if you want war, we will show you what we are. We are humans. We come from Earth. And we do not lose. The Imperial Council met in emergency session. They had 3 choices: surrender, negotiate, or escalate. Vex Thar pushed for escalation. If we back down now, the Empire is finished. Every species we have ruled will rebel. We must show strength. The Council agreed. They mobilized every fleet, every soldier, every weapon. They would drown humanity in numbers. They would burn Earth itself, if they had to. But first, they would send a message of their own. If humans could kill their soldiers, the Empire could kill human civilians. The orders went out to Imperial fleet groups near human colonies. Show no mercy. Make them fear us again. It was the worst decision they had ever made. Because now, humanity was not just angry. Now, humanity was fighting for survival. And there was nothing in the galaxy more dangerous than a human who had nothing left to lose. The message came at 0300 hours Earth Standard Time. General Li Doyun was not sleeping when it arrived. He had not slept properly since Mireille's death. He was in the command center, reviewing tactical reports, when every alarm in the building started screaming at once. General, the communications officer's voice was breaking. We are receiving emergency broadcasts from Kepler Station. They are under attack. Doyun was moving before the officer finished speaking. Kepler Station was a civilian colony, home to 50,000 people. Mostly families. Lots of children. It had no military value whatsoever. It was just people living their lives. The video feed came through. It showed Imperial ships in orbit, firing down at the colony. It showed buildings burning. It showed people running and screaming. It showed children. Then the feed went dark. Confirmed, another officer reported, her voice hollow. Kepler Station has been destroyed. No survivors detected. The command center went silent. Do-yoon stood frozen, staring at the empty screen where 50,000 lives had just been erased. He thought of Mireille. He thought of what she would say. He thought of her last words. "Do not let them bury what we are." "Get me Admiral Woojin," Do-yoon said quietly. His voice was steady, but something in it made everyone in the room go cold. "And send a message to all fleet commanders. Operation Righteous Fury is now active. Total war. No more restraint." Admiral Woojin's face appeared on the screen. He had already heard. "General Do-yoon, I assume you want to respond." "I want to burn their worlds until they beg us to stop," Do-yoon said. "And then I want to keep burning." "I understand the feeling," Woojin replied. "But we do not kill civilians. That is what makes us different from them. We will win this war, General. And we will do it the right way." Do-yoon took a deep breath. Woojin was right. If they became monsters to fight monsters, Mireille's death would mean nothing. "What are your orders?" "Admiral, we dismantle their military completely," Woojin said. "Every base, every shipyard, every weapons facility. We remove their ability to wage war. We do it fast, and we do it clean. Civilians are off limits. Anyone who wants to surrender gets to surrender. But anyone who fights dies. Is that clear?" "Yes, sir," Do-yoon said. He felt the rage in his chest cooling into something harder and colder. "I will take the Fifth Fleet and begin operations in the Korthan home sectors. The Vengeance is being prepared for your command," Woojin said. "She is our newest flagship. I think General Han would want you to have her. The Vengeance was everything a warship should be. She was fast and deadly, and carried enough firepower to level a planet. Captain An Minjae commanded her, with the kind of cold efficiency that Do-yoon appreciated. Minjae was 40 years old, had spent her entire career in deep space operations, and had never lost a ship or a battle. "General on deck," Minjae said as Do-yoon entered the bridge. The crew saluted sharply. "At ease," Do-yoon said. "Captain, what is our status?" "Ready to depart in 30 minutes, Minjae reported. "The Fifth Fleet is assembled and awaiting your command. We have 15 carriers, 42 Reaper-class dreadnoughts, and full support elements. Commander Yoon's Ghost Fleet will provide strategic support." Do-yoon nodded. He walked to the command chair and sat down. It felt wrong somehow. This should be Mireille's chair. She should be the one leading this fleet. But she was dead. Murdered by the same people who had just killed 50,000 civilians. "All ships," Do-yoon said into the fleet-wide channel. "This is General Lee Do-yoon. 3 hours ago, the Empire attacked Kepler Station. They murdered 50,000 of our people. Men, women, and children who had nothing to do with this war. They did this to make us afraid, to make us surrender." He paused. "They made a mistake. We do not surrender. We do not forgive. And we do not forget. We are going into Imperial space. We are going to dismantle their war machine piece by piece. We will give civilians every chance to evacuate. We will accept surrenders. But anyone who raises a weapon against us will learn what it means to fight humans. For General Han. For Kepler Station. For Earth." The fleet jumped to hyperspace. The Korthan home sectors were 6 days away at maximum speed. Do-yoon spent that time planning every detail of the operation. This was not going to be a simple battle. This was going to be systematic destruction of the Empire's ability to make war. They hit 12 military installations in the first day. Shipyards, weapons factories, training facilities. Each one was given the same message. Evacuate all civilians and surrender all military personnel, or be destroyed. Most chose evacuation. 3 chose to fight. Those 3 ceased to exist within an hour. The Ghost Fleet performed exactly as designed. Commander Yoon's ships would appear in orbit around an Imperial base. Broadcast surrender terms. Wait exactly 10 minutes. And then either accept the surrender or reduce the base to rubble. They moved so fast that Imperial forces never had time to organize a defense. On the third day, they encountered real resistance. An Imperial battle group of 60 ships moved to intercept them near Fortress Prime, the Empire's largest military installation. The installation commander, a Korthan general named Vexis Kur, broadcast a message full of threats and promises of human extinction. Captain Minje looked at Doyun. "General, destroy the battle group," Doyun said. "Then give Fortress Prime one chance to surrender. If they refuse, remove it from existence." The battle lasted 7 minutes. The Imperial ships fought bravely, but they were using tactics that were centuries old, against weapons they had never seen before. When it was over, 12 Imperial ships had survived by immediately broadcasting surrender. The other 48 were debris. Fortress Prime did not surrender. General Vex Kur broadcast one more message calling humans cowards and animals. His last words were cut off when the Vengeance's main cannon fired. The fortress, which had stood for 400 years and was supposed to be invulnerable, was destroyed in 14 minutes. The video of that destruction was broadcast across the galaxy. Species that had been allies of the Empire started reconsidering their positions. If Fortress Prime could fall that fast, nowhere was safe. But the Empire was not finished. High Commander Vexthar had a plan. If humans cared so much about civilians, he would use that against them. He would place military facilities inside population centers. He would force humans to choose between winning the war and protecting innocent lives. He was so certain it would work that he did not even keep it secret. He broadcast his strategy openly, daring humans to attack. Doyun received the message while the Fifth Fleet was preparing to assault the Korthan homeworld. He watched Vexthar's face on the screen, watched him smile as he explained how he would use civilians as shields. Doyun felt his anger turn into something beyond rage, something cold and absolute. "Captain Minje," Doyun said. "New orders. We are going straight to Korthan Prime. We are going to end this war." "General, they have placed weapons facilities throughout their capital city," Minje said carefully. "We cannot strike them without civilian casualties." "I know," Doyun said, "which is why we are going to do something they will not expect." "Get me, Commander Yoon." Yoon's face appeared on the screen. She looked as tired as Doyun felt. "General, I need your best infiltration teams," Doyun said. "And I need you to get me into the Imperial Command Center." Yoon's eyes widened. "You are going to assault their capital. I am going to challenge Vexthar personally," Doyun said. "If he wants to use civilians as shields, fine. But he and I are going to settle this, face to face." It took 3 days to reach Korthan Prime. During that time, something unexpected happened. A Korthan fleet commander named Talrik broadcast a message directly to Doyun. "General Lee, not all Korthans support this war. Many of us opposed the assassination of General Han. We do not want to hide behind civilians. Will you accept our surrender?" Doyun looked at the message for a long time. This could be a trap. Or it could be the first crack in the Empire's unity. "Tell Commander Talrik, we will accept his surrender. Tell him we need his help evacuating civilians from Korthan Prime. Tell him we are going to end this war, and we would rather do it with Korthan help than over Korthan bodies." Talrik proved to be genuine. His fleet of 20 ships joined the human forces. More importantly, he used his knowledge of Korthan Prime to help human forces identify which buildings held real military targets and which were just civilian structures that the Empire was using as shields. The siege of Korthan Prime began on a gray morning. The human fleet arrived in orbit and broadcast one final message. "People of Korthan Prime, this is General Lee Doyun of Earth. Your leaders started this war by murdering General Han Mirai during a peace ceremony. They continued it by killing 50,000 civilians at Kepler Station. They have now placed military installations throughout your city, making you shields for their cowardice. We are giving all civilians 24 hours to evacuate to the northern continent. After that, We will remove every military installation from this city. Anyone who wishes to surrender may do so. Anyone who wishes to fight should know that this ends today. High Commander Vexthar watched the human fleet from his command center. He was surrounded by his best soldiers, protected by the most powerful shields the Empire could build. He felt safe. Even if humans attacked, they would never get to him before his own fleets arrived to rescue him. He was wrong about that. General Do-yun came for him personally, leading a strike team through the city, while the Vengeance provided orbital support. It was brutal and fast. The Empire's best soldiers fought hard, but they were defending a leader who had hidden behind civilians. They were fighting for a cause they no longer believed in. Do-yun found Vexthar in his command center, still trying to call for help that would never come. The High Commander looked at the human general with something like disbelief. "You cannot kill me. I am protected by the laws of war. You forfeited those protections when you murdered civilians," Do-yun said coldly. "You wanted war. You wanted to see what humans are. Look at me. This is what we are when you take everything from us." Vexthar died, still not understanding what he had started. The war was over. 8 months after the assassination of General Han Mirai, General Lee Do-yun stood in the ruins of the Imperial Palace on Korthan Prime. Around him, the city was burning. But the fires were under control now. Human teams were working alongside Korthan civilians to put them out. It was strange, Do-yun thought. Yesterday, they had been enemies. Today, they were just people trying to save their homes. The war was over. The Empire had surrendered unconditionally 3 days ago, after the death of High Commander Vexthar. Imperial fleets across 12 sectors had laid down their weapons. Some had fought to the end, but most had simply stopped when they realized their leaders were gone and the cause was lost. Commander Talrik approached, his scales dusty from helping with rescue operations. "General Do-yun, the evacuation of the southern districts is complete. Casualties were much lower than expected. Thank you for giving us time to get people out." Do-yun nodded. "We do not kill civilians, Commander. That is what makes us different." "I know," Talrik said quietly. "That is why so many of us surrendered. You could have destroyed our world. Instead, you gave us chances to save ourselves. The Empire never did that for anyone." Admiral Kim Woo-jin arrived later that day. He walked through the ruins with Do-yun, both of them surveying what the war had left behind. "The Council is meeting on Earth next week," Woo-jin said. "They want to discuss the future of the galaxy. What comes after the Empire? What do they expect us to do?" Do-yun asked. "Take the Empire's place? Some species think we will," Woo-jin admitted. "We won the war. We have the strongest fleet. We could rule the galaxy if we wanted to." Do-yun thought of Mirai. He thought of her standing at that podium, talking about peace and respect, and using strength wisely. She would not want that. "No," Woo-jin agreed. "She would not. Which is why we need to do this right." They returned to Earth for the Galactic Council meeting. The council chamber had been repaired after damage from protests during the war. Now, it was filled with delegates from every species in known space. Some were former Imperial allies, nervous and uncertain. Some were former enemies of the Empire, hopeful that humanity would be different. All of them were watching to see what Earth would do with its victory. President Kang Suho had been re-elected during the war. He was older now, and looked more tired, but his voice was still strong. He stood before the council and began to speak. 900 years ago, humanity signed a treaty that limited our power. We did this because we lost a war, and because we wanted peace. For 9 centuries, we kept that treaty. We limited ourselves. We became partners in the galactic community. We believed in cooperation and respect." He paused. Then the Empire murdered General Han Mirai during a peace ceremony. They killed her because even our restraint made them afraid. They killed 50,000 of our civilians to make us surrender. They thought they could break us. Please. The chamber was completely silent. Every species was listening. wondering what came next. Would Earth demand tribute? Would they claim systems? Would they impose their own version of the empire? We fought a war. President Kang continued. We won that war. We dismantled the empire's military completely. We could rule you now. We could demand obedience. We could create a new empire with Earth at its center. He looked around the chamber. We will not do that. General Han Mireille believed in peace, through respect, not through fear. She believed in cooperation between equals. She died believing in that. We will honor her memory. Ambassador Park Ji-hoon, who had survived the assassination and had returned to service, stepped forward. We propose a new council, Park said. A true democracy of species. No empire. No dominant power. Every species gets a vote. Every species has equal standing. We will defend each other. We will trade freely. We will resolve disputes through discussion, not war. And if someone breaks this new treaty? Asked a delegate from the Korthon Free Republic. The new government that had formed after Talrik and others had overthrown what remained of imperial authority. Then we will all respond together, Park said. Not as conquerors, but as defenders of peace. The galaxy has seen what happens when one species tries to rule all others. We will not let it happen again. The debate lasted 3 days. Some species wanted guarantees. Some wanted Earth to maintain a strong military to protect everyone. Some wanted to know what would stop Earth from changing its mind later and deciding to rule after all. It was General Do-yoon who finally answered that question. He stood before the council in his uniform, the same one he had worn the day Mireille died. It had been cleaned. But if you looked closely, you could still see faint stains. I served under General Han Mireille for 10 years, Do-yoon said. I was with her when she died. Her last words to me were, "Do not let them bury what we are." For months, I thought she meant our strength, our ability to fight, our willingness to do whatever it takes to survive. He paused. I was wrong. She meant our humanity, our choice to be better than our worst impulses, our decision to build instead of destroy. He looked around the chamber. You ask what stops us from becoming conquerors. I will tell you. We stop us. We remember what we fought for. We remember General Han. We remember that power without restraint is not strength. It is just violence. And we remember that peace is not about who has the biggest weapons. It is about choosing not to use them. The Treaty of Mireille was signed 1 week later. Every species in the council added their mark to it. It was shorter than the old treaty, with simpler rules. No species would maintain fleets larger than necessary for defense. All would contribute to a joint peacekeeping force. Disputes would be resolved through arbitration. Force would only be used as a last resort, and only with council approval. The treaty included one unusual clause, added at Admiral Woojin's suggestion. Every 100 years, all species would gather at Crosspoint 9, where Mireille had been killed, to remember what happened when peace was broken. It would be a reminder and a warning. Humanity began dismantling its war fleet immediately. The Ghost Fleet returned to dark space, to be sealed away unless needed again. The Reaper-class dreadnoughts were converted to civilian use or scrapped. The massive shipyards were retooled to build cargo haulers and exploration vessels. Commander Yoon Sojin oversaw the process. She hated it. We built these ships to protect us, she said to Do-yoon. What if we need them again? Stop, Jin. Stop, Jin. Stop, Jin. Then we will rebuild them, Do-yoon replied. But we will not keep them ready. Keeping weapons like this ready means you eventually want to use them. We learned that lesson. The memorial to General Han Mireille was erected at Crosspoint 9, in the exact spot where she had died. It was a statue of her in her uniform, standing tall and calm. The inscription was simple, General Han Mireille. She believed in peace. They killed her for it. We showed them why she was right to make them afraid. Now we choose peace again. But this time, You remember what happens if you break it. Doyun visited the memorial on the first anniversary of her death. He was not alone. Thousands of people were there, from dozens of species. Some had served with Mirai. Some had fought against her. Some had never met her but had come to honor what she represented. Talrik found Doyun standing before the statue. The Korthan commander was part of the new council now, representing his people. She looks like she is watching over us, Talrik said. She is, Doyun replied. In a way. Every time we choose peace over war, that is her watching over us. They stood in silence for a while. Then a young cadet approached, human, probably 20 years old. She looked nervous. General Doyun, sir. Can I ask you a question? Of course, Doyun said. Do you think we will ever need to fight like that again? The cadet asked. Will we ever need to unleash our full power? Doyun thought about it for a long time. He thought about the war, about the ships they had built, about the people they had killed. He thought about Kepler Station and Fortress Prime and all the places that had burned. He thought about Mirai, standing at that podium, talking about peace. I hope not. He finally said, I hope we never have to fight another war. I hope the galaxy has learned what happens when you break the peace. He looked at the young cadet. He looked at the young cadet. Looked at the young. But if they forget, if someone decides to test us again, then yes. We will show them. And they will remember why General Han made them sign that first treaty 900 years ago. The cadet nodded and walked away. Doyun returned to looking at the statue. Mirai's stone face was calm, almost serene. She looked like someone who had found peace. We did it, Doyun said quietly to the statue. We won the war. And then we did what you would have wanted. We stopped. Admiral Wujin joined him a few minutes later. The old man looked at the memorial and smiled. She would be proud, you know. We could rule the galaxy. Instead, we chose to be partners in it. That was always the human way. Doyun said, we fight like demons when we have to. But given the choice, we would rather build than destroy. Until someone tests us again, Wujin said. Until someone tests us again, Doyun agreed. They stood together, two old soldiers looking at the memorial of a third. Around them, the galaxy was at peace. Ships from 100 worlds docked at Crosspoint 9, their crews mixing and trading and learning from each other. Children who had been born after the war played together, not caring what species they were. Diplomats discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. It looked like peace. Real peace, built on respect and understanding instead of fear. But in the dark spaces between the stars, in secret shipyards that no longer appeared on any map, the Ghost Fleet waited in silence. The weapons were powered down. The crews had gone home. The massive warships floated in dark space like sleeping giants, waiting for the call that might never come. And that was exactly how humanity wanted it. Peace was not about being weak. Peace was about being strong enough to choose not to fight. Being prepared enough to win any war, but wise enough to prevent them. General Lee Doyun retired 6 months later. He moved to a small house near the ocean on Earth and tried to forget the war. Sometimes he succeeded. Sometimes he woke up at night, hearing plasma fire and screaming. Sometimes he saw Mirai falling, over and over again. On those nights, he would go outside and look up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Crosspoint 9 was floating in the void. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning to live in peace. And somewhere out there, in the darkness of hidden space, the weapons were waiting, just in case, because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. True peace did not come from being harmless. True peace came from being powerful enough to destroy your enemies, and choosing not to. It came from being strong enough to terrify the galaxy, and deciding to build instead. It came from people like General Han Mirai, who believed in something better than war, even when war was easier. And it came from people like General Lee Doyun, who had the strength to honor that belief, Even after she was gone, the galaxy would remember. And as long as they remembered, the peace would hold. Until it did not. And then humanity would show them again.